Welcome to Be the Sun, Not the Salt. I'm Dr. Harry Cohen. I'm joined by my co-host, Connie Fontaine, Chief Super Spreader.
Chief Super Spreader. And we're loving these mini episodes. Hopefully you are too. Not just because they're short and sweet, but because they're a daily reflection for ourselves. And hopefully they can become the same for you. So yeah, chapter 15 is make your words count. There's so many ways to dive into this one. I think, what's your point is one of the things, like making sure that you get to the point quickly, not just for yourself, but for others.
And this is the famous Mark Twain quote, which is, if I had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter. Point being, when we are really thoughtful about what we are saying and we say it succinctly, clearly, with just the right amount of words, it's more powerful. That takes effort. That takes thought. And I'm going to stop talking.
I was going to say, how do you know? Like, there are people that you see that continue to make their point using different words. Being self-reflective on that, how do you get to that point?
So my experience as a public speaker, as a person who speaks for a living, is continually practice stopping talking, make your point, use an example, and then be done. And that is practice. And I'm still working at it. I gave a talk on Monday of this week, and I used just a few too many sentences, and I was watching it because I had recorded it, and I can do a better job. And that's
I think
the
when
work.
you said practicing ending, there literally is a way to end that sentence with a period, an exclamation part, and stop. Close your mouth. And it does work. And it actually gets people's attention. It also gives them permission to speak. It gives them permission to nod their head. And you'll know right away whether they want you to keep going, for sure.
You just did it.
I was just going to say,
did it.
Don't stop talking yet.
No, that's what we got to do. To answer your question, practice saying less. And then when people say, could you say more? Could you give me an example? Great. And then you're there. But the real practice is make your point, say what needs to be said, and be done. Bite your tongue when you're finished.
Yep, very much about the previous chapter, don't be a complexifier. We talked about it there, about keeping it simple. What about this? I think this idea, and I don't know if this is the right chapter to talk about it, feels like it, but the words you choose are very important. The things you say out loud are very important because you start to register them in your brain over and over again.
It is really true, and sometimes we have to learn the hard way which words are inappropriate. I mean, really, don't use that word. It's a trigger word. It has multiple meanings. It's offensive for people. We oftentimes have to make the mistake of using inappropriate or wrong or confusing, obtuse words. Then we have to realize, not so helpful. So I like the practice of continually trying to figure out how to be more clear forever.
Right. We were talking about that this morning, inflammatory language that, is meant to categorize a person, an idea, a belief. Someone is a liberal or a conservative. Depending on who you're having a conversation with, that alone can be inflammatory, depending on how you use it.
So I often say when I talk about this, don't be a dick. Now, some people find that offensive. And I have learned why didn't you just call the book that? That's a great title for the book. And other people say, well, that was a little offensive. So I don't know. We'll figure out whether I should say that or not.
Well, and I think, and again, this is one we talked a little bit about. I think we were offline when we were talking about this, where, the chatter, the inner chatter, telling myself that I'm a certain thing, word, bad at names. I probably talked about that in one of the mini episodes, but, making your words count also means don't say things that don't need to be said. Don't say things that are too affirming in something you didn't intend to affirm.
It's really a great practice. It's a marvelous thing to work on, which is don't add the next sentence to whatever you think you just said. See if you can say one less sentence to make your point.
Right. You said in this one line, I like to say, I suggest that you give people what they need without overwhelming them. That's that point.
Yeah,
say what you need to say, but don't continue to add facts if you're already getting an acknowledgement that you've said enough.
The image I've often used and said, which is when someone asks for a glass of water, don't hose them down. Your point. And
Right.
that's
And yeah, and there's things people don't want to talk about, or things that people just don't find interesting or relevant. And if it's not, then why bother making those words count? It's never going to count if somebody doesn't care about what you're talking about.
love it. And to the point, if someone's not caring about what you're talking about, you'll notice it if you're listening to them by watching them when they're looking at their watch or looking at their phone or looking away. Chances are you're boring.
Yep. Looking at somebody right in the eye and having that conversation and watching that body language, to your point, makes all the difference in the world. They'll feel listened to, acknowledged, and you'll know when it's time to stop.
In the spirit of making our words count, we're going to stop talking.
I think so. Please pass this along. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we hope you follow the podcast and get alerts every time we drop something new. Thanks for listening.